Chapter 1. The Roots of Bloodwood. Fenris arrived at Teryx's house, expecting to see one of the hiding places from the shadow hands he knew so well. But Fenris was astonished. He was greeted by a beautiful lady, maybe around her 19, and taken to an external patio surrounded by scented and colorful flowers, a large fountain that some other young girls were refreshing themselves, and direct access to the river in Brindlehold Uppertown. The furniture was sophisticated, and there were comfortable pillows and blankets around this short round table, covered with the most delicious treats that Fenris could possibly imagine. Some of the fruits on the table Fenris didn't see before. Teryx even had meat, wine, and honey to offer to Fenris. The house was at the banks of the river, and the view was fantastic. His old friend was living an amazing life, having servants and even a few concubines for what Fenris could see, like a real merchant usually has. There was an abundance in there: his clothes, furniture, jewelry, and his table full of good fresh food. That was a life that Fenris never pictured himself having, so he thought that it was a smart move to be disobedient and recall his former associate to help him to find some jobs in Brindlehold. "Fenris, my friend, I haven't seen you in almost a whole decade," Teryx exclaimed while hugging his old friend. "When was the last time?" "When you marry Viela, I suppose. Came, sit, and join me for lunch." "Teryx, my old friend, I missed you and the old days," Fenris said more intensely than he intended. "Ah, it is hard to have an honorable life, isn't it? I told you that you were going to regret your choice to have a boring, moral husband's life. Outcasts like us don't make much if it is honest money, my friend. You aren't an outcast anymore, Teryx. Look at all this. You for sure got a really good job or found a gold mine in your land," Fenris said, making both laugh aloud. "Indeed, my friend, I did. Not gold, but nuts," Teryx shouted. Then he remained in silence with a mysterious smile, waiting for Fenris to ask more. "Nuts, Teryx? Nuts don't make much money. Also, selling nuts is legal, and I am sure you don't do any business if isn't behind the scenes." "Ah, so bold. I don't know if I feel flattered or offended. I am going to tell you something. These nuts aren't any shit you can eat in the road. Blood seeds are very precious and rare to acquire. Do you see that tree a few miles outside the town?" Teryx said, pointing to the horizon across the river. Fenris knew exactly what he was talking about. When they crossed the Sea of Ondines coming from Nerethil, the first thing he could notice from the coast was this impressive tree that could be seen on the horizon, so tall that its top was covered with clouds, and so large that it could be compared to some hills around it. He had never seen something like it. This tree I noticed first when my family and I arrived at this land. I asked Viela because this is her homeland, but she told me to stay away from it and let it be. Teryx laughed and said, "Oh, Viela, such an intelligent woman. But do you know what that means? That if no one dares, I can sell what I find there for the right price." His eyes were shining, and the mysterious smile still remained, as if Teryx was telling a good story and waiting for the best moment to present his plot. "That's it? People don't go to the tree, so you do it, and sell these nuts people don't get by themselves? You are mocking me. What's the catch, Teryx?" "Oh, the catch is that these blood seeds are magical tools. You know the Isles of Lyrian are forbidden land, right? Not even the most experienced shadow hands try to steal from them because it's a death sentence. So people have to find other sources of magic, and in those days, is it exceedingly rare, correct?" Fenris agreed by nodding his head, while enjoying some smoked pork meat slices with fresh bread he didn't have in ages. "Accordingly to my knowledge," Teryx continued his speech, "the blood seeds can be used to enchant anything. Eating it's impossible, it kills anyone immediately. It's one of the strongest poison people have ever heard of. Planting it will kill the land, and nothing will grow for the next 10 years. But if the right facilitator, a native that can touch it, extracts the magical properties of the seed and transfers to another object right away, that object will be powerful forever. You know what that means, my good friend Fenris? Means that you can only profit from it if you know how to extract and to manipulate it, which you know." Fenris was becoming interested. "I don't, but I know who can. Has to be someone from the tribes, as I told you. People like us. My job and the great challenge here is to actually collect blood seeds safely, take them fast enough to my partner in Farah's Vale, and have my client's object to enchant ready to go. Are you familiar with the life tree legend? Viola knows for sure if she was raised here, highly likely due to her very native face. Tarek said, straighten his back and asking for more wine to a servant, as he was going to speak for a while. No, Viola doesn't tell me anything about her past or about this place. The only reason we are back is because she is pregnant and her health was too bad in the Glass Dunes, which was the only place we could afford to live in Narethil. She told me here it would be better for her to breathe and eat, and I need to make more money where I am not recognized by my mark. Fenris received a triangle mark, burned in the top of his hand by the Shadow Hands, when he decided to abandon their group. Leaving wasn't forbidden. However, everyone would recognize you as a thief because of that scar, which shut some doors forever. You were really in love with Viola, wasn't you? But don't worry, very few people here have heard about Shadow Hands, and those who know us believe we are a myth. There is nothing to be feared at all. You can keep your honest life if that's your wish, my friend. Or you can join me as well. I need more people for collection. But I must advise you, it isn't as easy as you think, Tarek said. I have been trying for all those years, and it wasn't easy either. I could never afford Elira's studies, so she only knows what her mother can teach her. I have never studied by myself, but I learned on the streets what was required to survive, and there is nothing I can do for my daughter besides teaching her how to fight and make more money to have resources for her. And what am I supposed to do with the new baby? Viola convinced me through love that I should try a different life. But it is for loving my children that I want to provide everything they deserve. Fenris could imagine his daughter studying arts as Elira wished, and living a life of abundance as he was seeing Tarek's had. Elira is extraordinarily talented, Tarek's, but no one is going to pay attention to her art while she is painting on a street market. People looking for money to survive don't buy art. Her beautiful singing, from where we came, was only going to be appreciated in entertainment houses for gentlemen. No Tarek's. Elira deserves so much more than that. Fenris was a free man with very few attachments in the world. Viola was very much loved, and to please her, he agreed to abandon the winding paths. But his daughter Elira was the greatest joy in his life now, and he wanted the best for her. He doesn't know how to do many things to earn a living, but what he knows, he is quite skilled at. And Fenris was going to ensure that his children were going to have his best. If you are so sure, then let's talk about business, my friend. The tree I was talking about, the natives call it elder tree. In the cities we know as life tree or blood tree. It doesn't matter. It's the same shit. There are 5 different tribes living there, distributed across the large branches. The Kuraash have been ruling for almost 70 years. They are one of the most violent tribes and getting worse with time. They occupy the middle of the tree until the top. That means they have more blood seeds, more power, more everything. They have access to so many more resources than others that the experience of leading is completely different than the reality of the lower tribes. The other 4 tribes are distributed in the middle bottom part of the tree, located in the 4 cardinal points. At north, you have the Morokai. They are the less aggressive, in my opinion, and more willing to negotiate with the cities around, especially in Yaruna's Cross. Most of my business partners are Morokai. Some of them are facilitators in Far's Vale, but to become true partners, you have to be very convincing. If you join me in this work, you will meet them very soon. Next tribe, at east and closer to us, is the Jirnor. They are terrible. If one of them catches you trying to cross their territory, you are ruined. They can kill you, and they are skilled enough to do it, or negotiate with you, which is even worse. And before you even think that negotiating is your talent, be aware that they are famous for breaking deals and stealing everything that is dear to you. They can even steal your wife and daughters from you, according to the rumors I have heard. It's like opening the door and inviting the devils of Mount Greyrun to your home, so sometimes it's best to choose death and not take this problem home. But don't worry, my friend, we won't go there at all. They are closer to the other cities, but we always surround their tribe and get in through alternative paths. Are you following? Tarek stopped speaking while drinking some wine to relieve his old throat. Fenris nodded his head again. He was absorbing the information, and until that moment, he was comfortable in accepting doing business with Tarex. Continuing, the other two tribes aren't much of a problem. Tamrock is at west. They have impressive warriors and probably could take leadership from the tree if they want. But in the past decades, with the basic trade being so common, with the cities around the tree and our own conflicts being rentable, their warriors became mercenaries. If you see natives in the guard of the city, they are Tamarokis for sure. And finally, the Ziamak in the south. If you see a drunk native having their ass beaten by a Tamrock in a saloon at the city, it's one of them. And Tarex laughed until his eyes were tears. Oh, Ziamakis are my favorites and the ones I make true friendship with. Some of my dearest friends here are Ziamak indeed, Tarex said, finishing his glass of wine and asking for some more to the nearest girl. I am in, Tarex. I understand it's complicated to deal with the natives, but my wife is one of them. I mean, she looks like one of them, so at least part native Viela is. So I think I may be able to negotiate. Well, I have been living with a tough one for the past decade. Fenris was confident he could do the job because he used to be an incredibly good shadow hand at his time. More a conciliator and strategist than actually aggressive or dominator, and that helped him and his partners to have the best business deals while avoiding unnecessary conflict. Oh, my friend, this is just the beginning, but let's celebrate your presence here and our new partnership. Tomorrow morning, can you join me in Yaroon's Cross Market? If you are not familiar with the area yet, I can send one of my men to pick you up. I will introduce you to some of my partners, so you can be aware of what we have been doing. Fenris knew. He tried to get a job in the market, and it was actually easy, but the payment was so low that his family could starve. I know where it is. I can meet you in the market in the morning. But Viela can't know where I am going and what I am doing. Her pregnancy is becoming harder than Elira's, and I don't want her to feel nervous. I understand, my friend. Don't worry about it. She will never find out. Just follow my lead and everything is going to be okay. But tell me about life. How old is Elira? And I suppose the marriage goes well since you have a baby coming. Did any wired wife predict the gender of your new baby? Tell me everything. Tarex seemed to be more excited about having a partner than Fenris was to finally make money after all these years of scarcity. She was born in 4610 in the midsummer, so she is about to turn 11 years old in a few weeks. She is so beautiful as her mother, but has my sagacity. I will bring her to meet you soon. My wife believes the baby is a boy. We didn't have enough money to pay for a wired wife, but she assures me that her people have their own ways of finding out, and she knows the baby is a boy. I will name him Yurdan. Fenris exclaimed, Oh no, my friend, don't tell me his name, not yet. It's not auspicious to tell the baby's name before he is born. And if your wife is telling you she knows, then she knows for sure. The natives have their tricks, believe me. Don't be superstitious, Tarex. Nothing bad will happen to my baby because I spoke his name. Fenris answered, annoyed. Fine. Also, I am curious to know which tribe she belongs to. So you figure it out and let me know, Tarex said, laughing. I could ask if she was open about it. My wife refuses to speak about that tree, and I asked several times, but if she decides to share, I will let you know. She is so stubborn, but a good woman that probably is already angry at me for being out so late. Fenris spoke while standing up to leave. You don't want to make her grumpy, and with the pregnancy, women are more sensitive. Go home to your family and we speak tomorrow morning, Tarex said. Fenris walked back to his house thinking. He was unbelieving the whole myth of the blood seeds and whatever power people thought it could give to those who possessed one sounded a lot like superstition. But one thing Fenris knew, if the believers wanted to pay all that money for it, he was going to get it. It was a long walk. Thus, Tarex was living in a much better neighborhood than Fenris, and his cabin was almost out of town, but it was good for him to put his mind straight and get ready for Viela's complaining. Elira saw him approaching and ran towards Fenris on the road, jumping to his lap to hug him. She was always happy to see her dad, no matter how long he was far away. Hi, sweetie. How was your day? Is your mother fine? Fenris said, throwing Elira over his shoulder to make her laugh. "Mom is fine, Daddy. She was just worried about you. The baby is moving a lot today, so I am singing for him to sleep, and Mom can rest," Elira said. "Sounds great, honey. I am sure your baby brother is enjoying. He loves your singing a lot," Fenris said while carrying her back home. Viola was waiting for them in the entrance of the house, holding a lamp and a fan to keep mosquitoes away. "Hilo, I think he is happy, but I don't know about Mom. Maybe I made her grumpy," Elira said, whispering to Fenris. "Your mother is a ways grumpy, honey. I doubt it has anything with you," Fenris whispered back, making Elira laugh. He put her back on the floor in the entrance of their garden, and she ran to her mom, hugging the big pregnancy belly. "Hi, Viola, my love. How are you feeling today?" Fenris said, giving a kiss on the tip of her nose. "Fine, Fenris. Did you get the job?" she asked with a serious voice. "Yes, darling. I got the job." And Fenris pulled Viola back inside, while a happy Elira started reciting, "Dad got the job! He got the job! Did you hear it, baby brother? Daddy got it!" And running around the house. "Elira, be quiet, please. It's almost bedtime, and you wasn't supposed to be that agitated," Viola said while sitting with both hands in her belly. She was in the beginning of the 3rd trimester of her pregnancy, and the baby was going to be big. A lot bigger than Elira. "She is happy, honey. Let her be," Fenris said while holding Elira by the shoulders and walking her to her room. "Let's go to bed and let Mommy rest. She needs the baby to grow healthy." "Are you sure the baby still needs to grow, Daddy? I think it is big enough," Elira said, walking while mimicking Viola. She kept her arms stretched out and her hands together, forming an imaginary belly, while she walked bouncing side to side as a penguin, making her parents guffaw. "You wait until you get married and have to carry your own," Viola shouted from the living room. Fenris put Elira in bed and told her one of his stories. It wasn't appropriate for her that she knew the crime life he had before, but his creativity for bedtime stories was far gone. He had already taught her how to defend herself, and she was almost a teenager now. Also, Elira's fascination about his tricks made him want to share. She would know how smart her father is. Viola should never find out, obviously, so it was their little secret. They even had code names for the subjects they didn't want her mother to know about. After she fell asleep in the middle of the 2nd story, Fenris went back to the living room to tell Viola about his new job. He was going to lie about his deal with Tarex, and just make her believe he was getting a regular boring job at Jeroen's Cross Market. He didn't like to lie to her, but also didn't like to not be able to afford new clothes for Elira or the herbs potions from a healer or a wired wife to relieve Viola's back pain from the pregnancy. He could barely feed his family, and that wasn't enough anymore. Viola fell asleep, sitting in the comfortable chair he made for her when they found out about the new baby coming. It was going to be useful for her when breastfeeding, but she was already using it to relax. Fenris covered her with his favorite blanket, a deep blue one that she knitted 3 winters ago, and sat in the rug in front of her. He loves to watch Viola sleep. When awake, she was always tough and disciplined, and that was her personality. He loved her anyway. But asleep, her features soften in relaxation, and a half-smile always appears on her face, and for once, Fenris could admire her carefree natural beauty. And she was incredibly beautiful. She had long, dark, and curly hair reaching the end of her spine, large and round red eyes, as he learned later most natives from the Bloodwood Forest had, and a skinny, strong body that made her pregnant belly look like the baby was just attached to her. Her skin had the golden glow of the natives, that at first sight he thought it was magical and exclusive from his wife. Her voice was melodious, and she was taller than most women he knew. Fenris never heard Viola singing, but due to Elira's talents, he was sure it was as beautiful as she is. Elira had her mother's characteristics, but her skin was tanned and her hair was straight, like Fenris. Viola moved in her sleep, and Fenris waited for her to wake up, so he could take her to their bed. But she only changed position slightly and continued dreaming. Fenris remembered the day he met her. He traveled from Eldermere to the Forgotten Shores because he had business there with a man that was used to intercept fine jewelry, and instead of paying the price by the weight of the gold, would resell to jewel makers by the fair price of the gems. That day, he had a lot of jewelry to trade because his contact was out of town for an exceptionally long time. According to a fellow shadow hand, the man was almost caught and was staying out of the guard's view for a while, until he was forgotten, but that wasn't the case. Their meeting was an ambush, and he turned in a lot of his clients to be spared from the gallows. Fenris was lucky enough to be late for their meeting for half an hour, due to one of the worst hangovers he ever had, and he watched while some of his companions were caught by the city guard. However, it was suspicious for him to be around, so he moved as fast as he could to the fish market and mixed with people. In one tent, he saw her. Vela was selling handmade fishnets and braided straw mats for the passers-by. He used 1/3 of the jewelry to trade into mats, enough for his non-existent crew, and fishnets for the boat he never had, but it was worthy. Fenris believes that it was love at first sight, but Viela is practical type. He loved her enough to give up on everything from his past life to be with Viela, and she took him in. She had always been very restricted about the dishonest paths. Her honor is one of her greatest virtues, and it gives her an air of respect and dignity. They married officially when she found out the first pregnancy, and their life was simple but happy. Viela finally woke up and saw him sitting in the rug in front of her, staring and smiling. She said, "You should take me to bed now, but no bedtime stories for me, just for the baby." Fenris smiled and stood up, holding her by the hands and leading to their bed. They were still in love with each other after over 10 years together, and even being tough, Viela was good to him and their family. Next morning, he woke up with Elira jumping over him and calling for breakfast. Viela was preparing a honey cake and hot vanilla cream to celebrate his new job. Fenris felt slightly guilty about lying, but his family was so happy that he didn't want to ruin it. "Morning. You didn't tell me last night what the job is about." "So?" Viela asked while serving the plates. "Morning, my love. How are you feeling this morning? It's a good job on the market. They pay well," Fenris said while serving cream for everyone. "I thought you gave up on the market because they pay poorly. Is it dangerous?" Viela asked, concerned. Sid. Fenris thought for a second to lie again, but he hated to do it. And she was an intelligent woman. He knew his wife very well. She would catch him if he wasn't paying enough attention. "Yes, my love, it is a little bit dangerous. But don't worry, there are other men giving support, and I won't have to worry about dealing with more than just some pickpockets." "Fenris, be careful. The thieves on the road are dangerous, especially if they are snakes. Don't put yourself in risk. We have 2 children to raise now," Viela said while sitting to eat with them. "What means a snake, Mommy?" Elira asked curiously. "Means dangerous people from Bloodwood, Elira. Some are more reliable, some aren't. To me, the snakes are the worst," Viela answered. "And which one is your favorite?" Elira asked once more curiously. "I don't have favorites." "Oh, honey, come on. I am also curious. Which one is your favorite? Or maybe where you came from?" Fenris knew he was probably going to be in trouble for asking. Viela hates to speak about her past, but he was indeed extremely interested. "They are all unnecessary, violent, and obsessed about that damn tree. I have no favorites at all. And they are all the same. I am from Bloodwood Forest, and that's enough asking," Viela said, annoyed. "But Mom, shouldn't I know where I came from too?" Both Fenris and Viela looked at Elira, surprised. Fenris thought that was unexpected, but Elira was growing fast, and she is too smart for her age. After a minute of silence, Viela answered, We came from the Jernor people, Elira, but you can't trust them or the Korash. If you ever need anything from the tribes, go to the Mordecai or Zamek, but be willing to negotiate. If you need protection, you are more likely to get help from a Tamrock. Some of them are in the city guard. But as long as we live, you won't have to worry about anything, my child." Fenris absorbed the information and thanked silently Elira for asking the right question. That information was especially useful for his new job, more than Viela could have ever imagined. "Thanks for telling me, Mommy. Do you think my baby brother will have red eyes like us?" Elira asked with her mouth full of crumbs. "I hope he doesn't. I hope he has the deep black eyes of your father," Viela answered. Fenris smiled at her and murmured, "I love you." "I love you too," she answered with a sweet voice.